We are live here and we are going to figure this whole thing out because the last time I did not remove my banner, and so today we are going to get it on, I think, and let's see if we can get this going today. Are we live? We're live! Woo! So excited. Good morning, everybody. It's Lauren from Portfolio Rocket, and this is Blast and a Half. And today we're talking about bone on bone burnout. And I am here with the amazing Candice Kingston from Kingston Coaching. Please introduce yourself, Candice, and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we will dive right in.
Well, thank you so much for having me. You know, I love you so much, so I'm always happy to be a part of anything you do. My name is Candice Kingston. I have a business called Kingston Coaching, and it's running a little bit of coaching as well. And I'm actually writing a book about imposter syndrome. But really, my main focus is helping CEOs and business professionals get to where they want to be, right? Getting over those roadblocks in life and helping themselves get over whatever it is that's stopping them. So I guess that was kind of redundant, but that's basically what I do.
Fantastic. And, you know, we were talking before, right? And we were talking a lot about burnout, no kidding. And one of the things that we were talking about is what it is. Mm-hmm. You're going to help us define that. And also how this particular flavor brand of burnout that we're all feeling, seeing, talking about today is a little bit different than the burnout that we've known prior to this.
Yeah, it's definitely an elevated sense of burnout. And so I think a lot of that really just comes down to emotional exhaustion. I think that's the number one definition of burnout. And you'll see that anywhere if you Google it or you know, what is burnout in the workplace? It's that emotional exhaustion. You are just so tired, not just from your work, but it's all areas of your life kind of, and we said this, compounding. It's like all the stress around you on top of stress on top of stress. And I think that is why it's worse now, because we're not just in a moment where we go to work, our work is stressful, and that's exhausting. And then we come home and maybe have a happy life. And not that you don't come home and have a happy life, but now there's, with COVID and now this Delta and all the crap going on around us, it's compounded. So it's one thing on top of another, on top of maybe work keeping you in golden handcuffs or whatever it is, the situation where you can't get out or you feel like you can't. And so I think that feeling of being trapped is so pervasive right now. It's how do I get out of this? How do I make the next move without, first of all, just shattering my whole life, but also in a way that, you know, honors my values and who I am and what I want in my life. So anyway, emotional exhaustion is sort of that first piece.
Exactly. And so I've been hearing, and I know that we've been talking about this, is that, you know, people are feeling like, oh my goodness, you know, I would do anything to leave, but, you know, I have my equity that is vesting, and I have health insurance, and all of these things that are legitimate and very, very real. And for goodness sakes, you've worked your butt off in order to earn all of these things. So it's very difficult to be able to make a choice between how do I take care of myself and how do I also endure whatever that situation is. So how do you talk to people about, you know, living with burnout and not having that be mutually exclusive to enjoying your life?
Well, it's a great question, and it definitely comes up a lot. One of my clients had two bosses, so like his manager and then the person above that person, and the top person kept coming to him with things to do. And so he's like, I can't even get my boss's work done because I'm doing this guy's work. And it's just this constant reshuffling, especially with what we're calling the great resignation. You know, people are leaving and you're left holding the bag. So now it's up to you to get all the work done. How do you even have time if you say, oh, I'm going to take a walk at lunch to just chill out and get, maybe meditate or something. And you're like, wait, I don't even have time to eat or go to the bathroom, let alone take a nice leisurely walk to get over my stress. So I think there's a lot of risk with when you talk about leaving and you talk about, oh, this is just really difficult. I can't get out because of all these things holding me back. It ends up being this other part of burnout, which is called depersonalization, which is where basically you don't give a flying F. Yeah, you just shut down. And it's so, it's so common. So a lot of, in my world, my coaching world, that would be considered a level 1 energy, right? You're just on the couch and you're stuck there. There's no moving, there's no motivation. You're done. You're a victim. You're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this. And so I'm just going to shut down and not even answer anybody or ask for help. I mean, that's a pretty low place to be, but that can happen.
Right. So you're, here you are, you're shut down, right? You have like extreme apathy.
Yeah.
I call it the case of the F-its, right? And so what is that strategy? Like we hear all the time, oh, self-care and take care of yourself. And in theory, after a while, especially if you're apathetic, it's not like you're going to be embracing that either. So how do you get out of this double bind of here I am in the state of victimhood, and I also want to get out at the same time?
So I think it comes down to two different ways of looking at this. One is that you're motivated. So maybe you might be apathetic, but you're also like, I can't live this way anymore. I can't be in my sweats on the couch eating Oreos one more day, or whatever that situation is for you. Usually for me, it's Cheetos and like Hershey Kisses or something. But so I can't be there anymore. I'm like, I'm going to give up this pity party. I'm ready to move on. That is a great place to be, because then you can go figure out some things that will work for you. So I can give you a list of great things to do, like meditate and journal and have your affirmations and go for a walk and exercise and eat right and all these things. You probably, for one thing, already know all of those. But for another thing, it has to work for you. It has to be your choice and your makeup of what that's going to be for self-care. So that person I'm not as worried about. They can go figure this out. Hopefully among those things to do, though, is asking for help, because the other person who is stuck there is going to have to get to that point, that rock bottom, to be able to ask for help to get out. And so that person might be more needing a hand hold, like I need help, guidance, therapy, maybe some medication, something to get out of this rut, because that's really what it is. It's just a deep hole and they're not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Right. And that's, often a very hard thing to do. And help has so many, of course, different permutations. I mean, we talked about this again. I have a morning accountability partner. I have to ask for help. I do not like waking up early in the morning. So I need help with that. So it could be as low level as that. Somebody who's going to cheerlead, clap you on, help give you a gentle nudge. It doesn't have to be somebody, banging you over the head. Mm-hmm. And we also, had a conversation that there's a certain level of badge value in not asking for help and just saying, I'm so busy and I'm so, pressed against the wall. So what do you think about that?
Well, so listen, we all have huge egos. I mean, we all are humans and we come with a big ego, big or little, however, whatever it takes up in your psyche, it's there. And that ego really is meant to hold us back and keep us safe. So when we're saying, I'm going to go ask for help, your little ego is saying, you know what, you're probably just fine the way you are. If you go ask for help, you're going to put yourself out there and they're going to know you're not so good. So this goes into a whole nother story with imposter syndrome. And this is what my book is about. I'll let you know when it's out. Hopefully I can finish it one day, because I have so much imposter syndrome, writing about imposter syndrome. But when you're being held back from asking for help, you've got to push through that. You've got to say, thank you, ego. Like, thanks for trying to keep me safe, but I actually really need help right now. And there is nothing wrong with asking for help. You don't have to tell people you're asking for help. You can go talk to a therapist. That can be confidential. You can talk to a coach, totally confidential. Nobody has to know that you're getting help to solve your problems or get through this rough patch, right? You don't even have to tell anyone. But if you do tell people and you're vulnerable and share that, guess what? It's going to help them too. So especially if you're a leader in your business, or even if you're at a higher level in your company and you're admitting that you need a little bit of help. I mean, look how much reception Simone Biles has gotten from, leading this Olympics, and everyone is just, oh man, what a great job. I'm so proud of her. I'm such an inspiration. Like, we're all behind this now. We're all getting this mental health thing pretty seriously. And asking for help is not a weakness. It's just a part of who you are and how you're going to get to the next level, how you're going to become a high performer or maintain being a high performer. It all comes down to having that help and that scaffolding to help keep you moving forward.
And that is also, I do want to mention this is a lot of what you do, coaching folks in the C-suite who are leaders, who are trying to and aspiring to set an example for their team.
It is.
And so when they are experiencing burnout or trying to cover it up, how is you, maybe the person that's reporting into somebody at a very high level, how do you necessarily, maybe you have to manage it up. Maybe you have to stand up and say, hey, I'm the one with burnout. How does that work?
Right. So a big part of that is that self-awareness. And I think people shove all of this down, first of all, and it only rears its head when it gets ugly. And so all of a sudden you're just like, oh gosh, I can't go to work tomorrow. Like, I just cannot. I've got to take a day. I've got to take a week or whatever. Like, I'm so overwhelmed. And when you're the boss or you own the business and you can't show up, and you're running the business, your freaking business, and you can't go to work, that's a problem. Like, that's a big problem, big red flag. You need to ask for help. And yeah, so I work with a lot of CEO or C-suite. It's also smaller business owners too, just, maybe solopreneurs. But when they're in that feeling of, a common theme is, I just don't have the energy for it anymore. I love it and I don't want to sell it, but I'm just not really feeling it anymore. That's okay. Let's get you excited about this again. And so a big part of this is, having these self-care routine. That's definitely something we work on. I always work on with my clients a morning routine. What is going to work for you? I don't care if you wake up at 4 or 9 or noon, whatever you want to do, that's great. But you need to have a routine that gets you ready for the day to help you stave off stress. That's the whole point of a morning routine. Anybody you follow, Hal Elrod, any books you read, whatever about morning routines, sure, it's totally overdone, but it is important. And there's a reason. It helps you set up your day in a healthy way that will prevent the stress from creeping in later. And it also gives you an opportunity later in the day when the stress does start to creep in to say, you know what, I'm going to tap into that feeling I had this morning when I did my exercise or when I took that nice long shower or whatever is part of your routine. And I don't really consider showering and brushing your teeth and all of that part of that, but whatever. So I'm going to tap into that relaxed state I was in, and I'm going to just close my eyes for 3 seconds and remember that feeling. I know I've got this. I know I can handle this stress. Let's go. So it's all about like all of those things working together and having that balance, but it being aligned with who you are and your values and what's important to you is also very important. So when your business starts to veer off in a different way, or your board is telling you that you need to run things a certain way and it's just not aligning with who you are at your core and what your values are and how you want to show up, it's going to be off. And when you're not in alignment, you're always going to be stressed out. So that's a huge part of burnout. It's just there's something off in your life. Maybe you hate the job, maybe you hate your boss, maybe you just don't like the work anymore, or maybe your company is starting to take on clients that you don't like because you're struggling to maintain a certain level of revenue or something like that. So when you're off like that, that's just constantly a rub, right? Just think of your car out of alignment. You're hurting your car all the time when you're driving it. So it's the same type of deal there.
So the first immediate thing to do when you are dealing with burnout is a self-care routine. I think you mentioned specifically a morning routine. I totally, I can say for myself, this has been, I'm like day 40 out of my 66 days.
Wow.
This has been a entire game changer for me. And what you didn't say, but I know is true, is that morning routine starts the day off with a lot of dignity and self-respect.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely.
It changes your physiological mindset. I did this. Like it's a big win, even not to hit the snooze button.
Yeah, like I can do this. I can do hard things and I can have self-discipline, right? That does feel so good. Yeah.
It really does. So if you're going through burnout, implement some level of self-care, and then the real hitch is stick with it.
Yes.
It's not a routine if it's a one and done.
Yeah. And we talked about that before, where I think there's so much about this, and it can get annoying. Even I get annoyed of like hearing myself say, just take a walk and just exercise and just eat right and it'll be fine and meditate and journal. But you know, those things actually work. And so if you stick to it and you do at least a couple of them, you don't have to do all of it, but find one thing that brings you joy and relaxation. It could be reading. You could just read a fiction novel in the morning, or a nonfiction, whatever, some kind of personal development book would be awesome. Maybe you like to read the Bible. I don't know, whatever you like and connect with, do that and do it consistently. When I first started meditating, I remember, but I tried a different type. So I switched over to transcendental meditation because my brother was doing it. And I mentioned to him one day, like, this is bullshit. Like, I sit here for 20 minutes and I have the best thoughts. Like, I'm like so productive in my head, but I'm not meditating. This is not working. And he goes, you know what? Just sitting quietly by yourself for 20 minutes is a huge accomplishment. How many people do you know will just go sit on the couch and close their eyes for 20 minutes? Like, that's very relaxing, even if your head is spinning, and eventually it stops spinning as much. It does, I promise. But in the beginning, it's spinning a heck of a lot, at least for me. Anyway, but yeah, so I think giving yourself kudos for any little piece of this is important, because it's not going to be an overnight, oh, I do these 20 things each day and it's amazing, changed my life. No, it could just be one little baby step that just helps take the edge off a little bit and gives you some space in your head for all of these things to percolate or work themselves out, but you know you're doing something good for yourself.
Awesome. Tip number 2. So self-care one is self-care routine number 1. Number 2, what is the next thing that you absolutely, that is a game changer to help you kind of enjoy your life while the burnout is still happening?
Well, gosh, I think I gave you all my best stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I actually want to go back because I think tip number 1, not to mess you up, and you can make it tip number 2, but is asking for help. I do really think that is, I just think it's paramount to your health and to your success. And I mean, sure, you want to call me, I'll be here for you, but you can talk to your mom, you can talk to your sister, you can talk to your neighbor. Like, you have an accountability partner every morning. Find someone who's in your corner, who's not going to should all over you and tell you what you should be doing, because that's a hard one. When you start to say, like, I know, God bless my mom, but if I ever tell her anything's wrong, like, it's, oh, you should do this and you should do that, and do you do this and do you do that, and have you told your kids this, and and everything should, and I just get piled with more overwhelm. And the one thing about coaching, which I think is really awesome, and what I always try to tell my new clients is, look, this is not about me giving you more things to do. Like, I'm not trying to give you a morning routine so that now you're like, I am so freaking busy, and now you're telling me to add on like a 30-minute morning routine. How am I going to fit that into my day? The whole point of it is to help you find more space and find more time and get over the overwhelm. So when I say ask for help, it's not about getting people to give you more things to do. It's about having someone to vent to. We had right before this, when we were talking, I want to point this out, because your friends, and maybe that sister or mom or whoever, you have to know who you're talking to and make sure they're okay with this. this has to be an agreement, because when you start to dump on the people around you, this was a big part, Lauren, of what you brought to the table about this conversation, is how those people around you, your families, loved ones, are not there to witness your burnout or to hold space for that burnout. They're going to get so burned out by that. And that's just not good for any relationship. So finding a trusted partner, I suggest a therapist, honestly, if it's something that you're just really having a hard time getting over. Obviously, coaching helps, but sometimes you have to go a little bit deeper, and therapy can help with that. So finding the right fit for you, but somebody who you can vent to and who will hold that space for you and listen to you and not get energetically drained by you, because that's pretty much what's going to be happening. I will say, in coaching, or in my practice anyway, I let you vent, but boy, we're moving on. Like, that's great. I'm sorry you had a shitty day. Like, suck it up, buttercup. We're moving on. Like, how are we going to fix it? Because now I'm in fix it mode. And like, how are we going to move you from that place into a better feeling place? Like, that's my whole mission. So I'm not going to let you sit there and circle the drain. The therapist will let you tell the same story over and over again, and eventually you might get over it. That's great. There is a time and place. But when you're ready to move on and get over it, then like, let's go. So sorry, that was a rant.
No, that's awesome and super helpful. I mean, I think that what we talked about is no badge value attached to being busy. Ask for help. Get a self-care routine, no matter how big or small it is, and stick with it. Number 3, I do want to address this.
Yes.
Now you have departed from your company, you, for whatever reasons, or you're just in whatever that burnout resource or source was to begin with.
Yeah.
Now that's been eliminated. How do you make sure that, number 1, you don't repeat it and recover in the interim?
Absolutely. So this is so huge, and I definitely have probably trauma memories of leaving one corporate job, hopping to another, thinking, oh, this one will be better, right? This one will be less stress, or this one I'll like better, or the people are so much better there. I'm sure I'm going to like the job, really looking for that next place. And gosh darn it, if it didn't catch up with me that I take myself everywhere I go. And my stepmom has been saying that since I was little. And man, it just rubs me when somebody's right like that, because all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the common denominator. I suck. This is terrible. What am I doing bringing this bad energy everywhere I go? So how can you prevent that when you go into this next role? So you've worked your way up at one company, you're doing awesome there. You finally get the courage to leave, because you know it means leaving some benefits, maybe some retirement, some other perks or vesting that you're waiting for. I'm just waiting for that day we go public. Whatever that thing is, you're like, screw it, I can't take it anymore. But I can still get a really good job over here because I'm awesome. How are you going to prevent just getting burned out on day one when they load you with all of these tasks, and now you're managing 20 people and whatever else? So I do think there has to be, first of all, a little space and separation in between would be awesome. So using that time as an advantage to, say I can only start on the 6th or whatever it is, like give me a week or something, right? Have some separation, really take that time to refresh, rejuvenate, do all the things with your family that you love to do, that brings you down to earth, and just slough off all the other stuff of the old job. When you move into that new position, though, I highly recommend you're setting up this kind of routine. You're putting these systems in place to prevent that from happening again. And you might say, oh, well, I don't need to meditate because now my job is new and it'll be great. Well, set it all up, right? Set up that scaffolding so that you're supported and you have people you trust that you can go to for help. You have a good system for a routine. You're taking care of yourself. You're, just doing all the right things, and you're setting yourself up for success. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is really all about.
I love the imagery of scaffolding, right? Which is structure.
Mm-hmm.
It is an infrastructure. It's a foundation, because, it's easy to think, oh, well, when I get over here, I'll have this, right? But without putting a blueprint and then maybe some beams in place, et cetera, it doesn't just like poof, all of a sudden, become this amazing, monument of what it is that works for you. So,
and I'll add to that, because I think as you're creating that structure, and you're thinking about that scaffolding. Let's just say I'm starting a new job at Google, whatever. So I'm going to be the VP of operations, because let's shoot for the sky. And I'm thinking of who that future Candice is. Like, who does that person have to be? Who do I have to be to get that job and to be in that role and to manage however many millions of people, whatever. So, like, how do I see myself in that role? What am I doing in that role? I mean, I used to always think about, what am I wearing? Like, okay, what am I wearing when I'm at the top of the boardroom saying, all right, people, like, we gotta work harder. So, like, who are you walking into that building? What kind of shoes do you wear? What kind of, I mean, I know I'm getting maybe a little girly on you, but like, really have that image in your head of that person that you are going to be. Now go down to, like, what are the characteristics? Well, I work hard. I don't sit on the couch eating Cheetos and Oreos. I have self-discipline. I have integrity. I'm doing these things that I'm proud of, right? Like, all of those things. And guess what? That person that you're future self is, and you have the scaffolding, and this person's going to help me, and that person, and I'm going to get my MBA, or whatever it is that you're going to do to build up that scaffolding around you. You can see it so clearly in your mind that now, starting today, you can pick apart that and say, I can actually do XYZ today. I can have self-discipline today. I can start right now with a lot of those future characteristics or future things. I can wear the heels today or whatever, right? I can do these things, and then the other things will follow because I'll get there. But I can start with this part of it today. And a big part of that is, how can I freaking handle my burnout?
So I do want to, and that's perfect. Thank you. I do want to address some of these fantastic comments that are coming in. And so thank you everyone for being here. Chelsea, thank you. Adam, thank you. And of course, Andy York, Alana, and also I love what Alana said here is rinse, but don't repeat. I love that because, of course, we hear that all the time. Rinse and repeat, not in this case. And I really do appreciate you being here, Paul. I love what he's saying here. This is about building a higher gear and learning how to lead on the edge of your comfort zone, burnout and stress, and keep from falling off into exhaustion. I think that there is a temptation to keep pushing. Of course, we saw that with Simone Biles. Like, I gotta, like, monitor myself here. I could push, but also, just back to this point that we were talking about earlier, if she had pushed so far, she would have also put the team at risk. Yeah. And so that's the same in our case. My team is my family and all my loved ones. I do not want to jeopardize their success because of my own decisions that may sound at the time like, I have to, step away from the spotlight and I'm going to disappoint. But, to not people please was also an act of service for them.
Big time. And a lot of those things that we think we're doing, this is another big part of burnout, I think, is like what you're saying. When you're hiding it and when you're stuffing it down and you're saying, oh, I'm going to push through and I'm not going to make this their problem, what ends up happening is you lose it or whatever, you get fired or something like that happens, and you think you're doing everyone else a favor. Meanwhile, guess what? It's not a secret. They see you falling. Right. They see you struggling and crying at night or whatever it is. They see all of that. And so when you do lose it, or when you get fired, or when you need a mental health break or need to go away for a while or whatever it is, like, your family is suffering, but they're also like, well, why didn't you come to us? Because we saw all of this happening. Or your boss might say that, like, why didn't you come to me and tell me you were overwhelmed? You just kept saying yes. And we kept giving you more work. Why didn't you just say no? People are going to have those kinds of attitudes because you're not communicating. And so that's that depersonalization, that shutdown that happens. It's just not helpful.
So I am going to help everyone just wrap this up. Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much. Kelly busted a move to come here. So thank you. So we talked about the first thing, ask for help. Second thing, establish a self-care routine and stick with it. The third one, here it is, see the future you in that time, as Dave mentioned in his comment, Dave Coughlin, thank you, about using the reset to actually visualize that future of whatever is coming, down the road.
Yeah.
And there it is again, right? Advice to build and visualize the infrastructure. Starting a new job with the same eroded system is not a fresh mindset. And thanks, Jack's giving some Candice love out there. So, all of these things are really, really, like you said, you wish that there was a eureka in any of this, right? It may sound like, oh, I've heard this before. It doesn't matter if you've heard it before, because if you haven't implemented it, it's worth hearing again. So I really want to stress, make it happen. Please go look for Candice on LinkedIn, Kingston Coaching, Imposter Syndrome, Burnout, and all the rest of it. I want to thank you and everybody else that was here. Thank you, Brendan Kumarasari, woohoo, my hero. And everyone else who joined today, thank you for your comments, and we will see you next week for Blast and a Half. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, Lauren.
Bye-bye.